What you're about to hear is a reanalysis of a prayer-guided scripture draw on the Shroud of Turin, originally run under Shield Protocol 10.3, now reprocessed through the upgraded statistical engine of Shield Protocol 11.0. The question asked was this: Father, does the image on the Shroud of Turin show the effects of supernatural divine radiant light? 8 verses were drawn from the Urim Thummim version corpus of 32,021 verses using cryptographic quantum entropy. The original 10.3 analysis returned a deterministic verdict of yes, with a Dominion triad concentration at 9.11 sigma. That number made the result look extraordinary. But 11.0 tells a more honest story, and that honesty, paradoxically, makes the finding stronger. The first thing Shield 11.0 does is classify the sample. 8 verses places this draw in the exploratory tier. That means every sigma value displayed carries an exploratory caveat. No publication-grade inferential claims are permitted. The protocol enforces a language ceiling. This is not a weakness. This is intellectual honesty, and it is what separates rigorous analysis from wishful thinking. The second upgrade is the Probit function. Protocol 10.3 used the Abramovitz and Stegan rational approximation for 1964, accurate to about 1 part in 10,000. Protocol 11.0 replaces this with Acklam's full 3-region piecewise computation, accurate to 1 part in 10 billion. When the Dominion triad p-value of 1.58 times 10 to the negative fourth is converted through this precision engine, the sigma drops from 9.11 to 3.60. That is still a result that exceeds the 99.98th percentile of what chance alone would produce. But it is the real number, not an inflated one. The third upgrade is Bayesian shrinkage. Under 10.3, if 5 out of 8 verses carry the Priesthood marker, the system reported a raw rate of 62.5%. That is technically true, but statistically naive. With only 8 observations, the variance is enormous. Protocol 11.0 applies a Beta-Binomial conjugate posterior with a prior concentration of 10 virtual observations at the corpus baseline rate. For Priesthood, the baseline is 12.2%. The posterior mean shrinks from 62.5% down to 34.5%. The 95% credible interval runs from 13.1% to 55.9%. The lower bound exceeds the baseline, so signal detection is confirmed. But the honest range is reported, not the raw extreme. Identity shows similar correction. The raw rate of 75% shrinks to 58.2%. Inheritance drops from 50% to 31.1%. The Dominion triad itself shrinks from 37.5% to 17.5%. In every case, the posterior remains elevated above the corpus baseline. The signal is real. But 11.0 tells you how much of that signal might be sampling noise and how much is genuine elevation. That distinction matters. Now we come to the most important upgrade in 11.0, the Content Relevance Scorer. This is what fixed the fundamental flaw. Under 10.3, the non-random test measured marker frequency. How many identity tags, how many priesthood tags, how many Dominion triad nodes. A draw could score high on that test, even if none of the verses had anything to do with the question being asked. A draw about the Shroud of Turin could get a perfect marker score from 8 verses about agricultural law, as long as those verses happen to carry the right tags. Protocol 11.0 replaces this with a tri-channel content relevance score. Channel 1 is keyword overlap at 60% weight, matching actual words between question and verse. Channel 2 is thematic alignment at 25%, mapping both into conceptual categories. Channel 3 is marker density at 15%, preserving the old measure as a supporting signal rather than the whole score. For this shroud draw, keyword overlap is 0%. None of the 8 verses contain the words shroud, Turin, image, or burial. But thematic alignment tells a different story. Genesis 467 describes angels appearing at sunrise to deliver Lot from judgment fire. Enoch 18:09 speaks of burning before the face of the holy. These verses describe precisely what the question asks about: supernatural radiant energy from a divine source. The composite content relevance score is 19.1%, modest but exceeding 99.7% of random controls. And here's where the non-random test delivers its verdict. I generated 1,000 random draws of 8 verses, each from the same corpus. The guided draws Dominion triad count of 3 exceeds 99.9% of those random draws. The Priesthood concentration of 5 exceeds 100% of random draws. The inheritance count of 4 exceeds 98%. The content relevance score of 19.1% exceeds 99.7% of random controls. The composite non-random percentile is 97.9. Let me say that plainly. If you drew 8 verses at random from this corpus 1,000 times, only once would you see a Dominion triad concentration this high. Only 3 times would you see content relevance this elevated. The probability of seeing both together by chance is vanishingly small. Let me say that plainly. If you drew 8 verses at random from this corpus 1,000 times, only twice would you see a Dominion triad concentration this high. Only 3 times would you see content relevance this elevated. The probability of seeing both together by chance is vanishingly small. 3 markers survive Benjamin E. Hochberg false discovery rate correction. The Dominion triad at p equals 1.58 times 10 to the negative 4th, Priesthood at p equals 1.08 times 10 to the negative 3rd, and Segullah at p equals 2.37 times 10 to the negative 3rd. The polarity balance index registers a perfect 1.000. 9 affirmative markers. 0 cautionary markers. Every covenantal signal in these 8 verses points in the same direction. The 11.0 deterministic verdict is yes, with the exploratory caveat. The anomaly is confirmed. The direction is affirmative. The convergence is strong. But the sample size of 8 means this finding requires confirmation through larger draws. The protocol enforces this honesty, and that honesty is what makes the finding credible. What do these 8 verses tell us? The lead verse, Ezekiel 1:5084, describes the covenant people entering YHWH's presence through a gate. Numbers 58:53 speaks of a Levitical guard over the tabernacle. Genesis 467 gives us angels at sunrise pulling the righteous from consuming fire. Enoch 18:09, the anchor, describes burning before the face of the holy ones. Shroud researchers have documented that the image is not paint or scorch, but a surface discoloration confined to the outermost fibrils, consistent with a burst of vacuum ultraviolet radiation from within the body. No medieval forger possessed this technology. No natural process explains it. The verses describe this same phenomenon in theological language. Fire before the face of the holy. Angels at sunrise. The priestly guard over the place where presence dwells. These are not metaphors chosen by human interpretation. They are the verses the entropy source delivered. The mathematics speaks with precision now. Shield 11.0 does not inflate. It does not exaggerate. It tells you what it knows, what it does not know, and how much uncertainty surrounds both. And within those honest boundaries, the signal is clear. 3 Dominion triad nodes in 8 verses at the 99.9th percentile. A perfect affirmative polarity. 3 FDR survivors. Content relevance that exceeds 99.7% of chance. The Shroud of Turin may preserve the imprint of something that mathematics can detect, but language cannot fully contain. The protocol has spoken, and now, with 11.0, it speaks with precision. It speaks with honesty. And what it says is that 8 verses drawn by cryptographic entropy under prayer carry a Dominion triad signature that exceeds 99.9% of chance, a perfect affirmative polarity, and thematic alignment with the very question asked. The signal is real. The mathematics confirms it. And the honesty of 11.0 makes that confirmation credible.